What? Oh, yeah. That's right.
Chris is digging it already.
Howdy, race fans. How the hell are you? It's another episode of Race Chat Live. We're coming to you live on the Winton Nation Sports Facebook page. I believe we'll be over on the Race Chat Live page. And also, a big, huge thanks to Fan for Racing. They're giving us the platform for our show this year. And a big shout out to all the inner workings that Miss Sharon Burton has over there at the Fan for Racing group. We do appreciate all the love, and man, it's been pretty cool to check the views and all. We've kind of fit right in over here at Fan for Racing. I think our show's very competitive with the other shows that's been on the network, and hopefully we're bringing in new fans. We had an interactive group last week with Damian Bean, a former colleague and co-host of mine, joining the show through the message system, and of course Miss Lee, Mama Bear, and Fan for Racing's Miss Sharon Burton kind of chiming in as well. So hopefully we'll have that interaction again here this evening. Typically we start these shows off with long monologues and stuff, but this year I just haven't really felt in the groove just yet. So really just want to go off and start talking about what's happened this past week and what we've got ahead of us. We've got a big show in front of us here, so we don't need to waste very much time. Of course, if you can't afford to get gas right now, I do kind of feel you, man. I mean, gas prices went up $1 in a week, but we'll save the politics for another show. It's just unfortunate that Americans once again were the pawns being used to pay for foreign wars. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but it's definitely been on my mind, and it's going to affect how people take their vacations, and probably will directly affect the entertainment business. And of course, NASCAR thrives off the entertainment industry. So without further ado, let's talk about what we've seen at Phoenix this past weekend. Of course, Ryan Blaney, who we had seen already this year, was Fast Cat. He was able to get it done at Phoenix, but man, it was a different Phoenix. Thank God. Like, who wants to clap their hands in joy that we finally had a decent race at Phoenix, right? I mean, we moved this place from the championship race because it got so boring. But between the horsepower increase and tire fall off, I think we actually left Phoenix with the positive attitude that we may be headed in the right direction with the shorter course races. Of course, the mile and a half has been awesome. There's been some pretty decent, I guess, super speedway racing, but the ones that had fallen off the most were the road course races and the mile speedways. So Phoenix is classified as that mile speedway, and I feel like really leaving there, we actually had a great weekend of racing with the IndyCar involved as well. I think that was a pretty big deal. We're seeing the numbers now start to come out. Of course, we'll discuss that here in just a little bit. Let's get on into it with Ryan Blaney. Of course, I made a statement last week, and Mr. CJ Sports got on to me quick. He was like, man, don't start that Ford talk crap yet, because, it's only the beginning of the season, and all of these races have been kind of a crapshoot up until now. And here we are. We went to Phoenix, and of course Penske dominated and did what Penske does, and of course Ryan Blaney was able to seal the deal and put one of those impressive W's in the column over there for his race team. So no need to fear, no need to waste a whole episode talking about how Ford's just struggling and not up to par right now. So I'll save you guys that. As we open up the gates here, I guess I'm going to go with Taz first. Taz, what were your thoughts on this past weekend, especially the Cup Series race with Ryan Blaney sealing the deal and picking up the win?
Well, I don't think it was as dominated by Blaney as maybe I'm taking it in a different perspective. I feel like we're hyping Blaney up as this big dominant force from this weekend. I don't think he truly was. I know he was one of the top running cars for the weekend in the race. I do feel like some of the Toyotas were up there, more so Joe Gibbs than anybody else. Christopher Bell was the biggest one out of that camp. I know there were struggles of the tire wear, tires blowing, but this was, I believe, the first race of the new horsepower package we have that NASCAR has implemented. So based upon the small little clip I saw from Hamlin on his podcast, the tires were not so much of Goodyear's fault. When you put tire pressures to a certain pressure, especially on the lower pressure side, and you have a faster car, you're bound to wear out tires and blow them out more. So in that sense of the deal, I guess that kind of makes sense. So, but I do feel like this was a more competitive race. There was a little bit more pit strategy involved. Yes, there were some long runs, which proved out to be where we saw the more consistent and dominant drivers of the race. And I do believe that we could have probably seen a Bell versus Blaney standoff if there were 5 extra laps, because Christopher Bell was coming at the very end for Blaney, and it was just a matter of, and I do remember at one point, I'm not sure if it was the end of stage 1 or stage 2. I want to say stage 2 maybe, where Blaney was trying to get an edge over Bell, but Bell was kind of playing on the defensive side of things. I wish we could have had a few more laps to see if Blaney would have played the defensive side or kept going with the aggression, and Bell would have to react to Blaney's aggression of how that would play out. But I think there was one other surprise factor too, was Logano. I think Logano in this race kind of gave me flashbacks to Logano and his more consistent running up front type of race that maybe I've gotten comfortable to, and we haven't seen a lot of in the last couple of years. So, Chevy was a big miss outside of Hendrick for the most part. I know Spire had a major setback. Suarez wrecked out. I think McDowell had some issues. Hocevar was running up front at one point, and then I think he kind of fell back a bit. But those are kind of the main takeaways I got from the Cup race at Phoenix.
All right. Chris, refresh my memory if I'm correct on this, but stage 1 ends, do pit stops, and Ryan Blaney catches a penalty, goes to the back of the field, correct?
Correct.
Into stage 2, did this not the same thing pretty much happen, and he went to the back of the field again?
I'll have to check back on that one. But I believe so. He drove through a lot of cars. I know that.
To my points, Taz, how can you not say Ryan Blaney was not dominant? He drove through the field twice, I think 3 times technically, from his starting position from wherever he started. So, like,
I think in terms of like,
that is,
I don't think he was the, like, yeah, he did that, but I think the way maybe we're kind of explaining it, or maybe if someone else is kind of trying to picture it as a dominant car or a dominant driver is the one, snoozing up the race by running up front all day long.
All right, yeah, there was a loose wheel, and then was there a penalty as well, Miss Sharon? It seemed like he got sent to the back twice. To me, there's no bigger definition. If those things wouldn't have happened, we would have had a snoozer. We would have had the whole Martin Truex at Charlotte all over again is what would have happened, and it would have been a snoozer of a race. Those things probably helped it not be a snoozer, the way that car performed. The whole Christopher Bell thing, I think the only reason, if it would have been more laps, I don't think that Ryan Blaney would have went with the 2 tires where Christopher Bell went to the 4 tires, and I think that's what we were seeing. I don't think it was so much more, and trust me, I was pulling for Bell. Bell was one of my 5 drivers. I think all 5 of mine finished in the top 9 this week. So he was one of my drivers as well, so I was happy with either one winning because I had Blaney as well. But I think that was more of the strategy with the limited amount of laps left, with Ryan Blaney going with 2 tires and Christopher Bell, who ended up going with 4 tires. I think that's what that was about, and I think there would have been more laps. I don't think that they would have went with that gamble with the 2 tires, because we saw that early in the race with Keselowski, and it seemed like his teammate did the same thing, and they went straight to the back and couldn't even hold their positions when they went with 2 tires or no tires, whatever it was earlier in the race. RCR, I don't know, but they need to figure it out. Like, to be a Rowdy fan, this is embarrassing and this is hard to watch. I think they said by lap 44, 45, he was already a lap down. We're just not seeing it out of RCR. Yes, Chris, to my point, somebody finally beat a Toyota. Now maybe we could talk a little bit about Chevy, since somebody else finally showed up.
However, Kyle Busch did come back for at least a 17th place finish. I know it's not great, but it's better than what they've done in the last 3 weeks.
Only thing that saved him was all those other cars and those tires, and him getting a lucky dog or whatever they call it these days, and other cars having more issues than he happened to have. It wasn't like he just all of a sudden they figured it out and he outperformed. I like the little pep talk, but I'm a Rowdy fan. I'm going to keep it real. It was more of everybody else's mishaps that got him up to 17 versus him turning things around. But they really do need to figure it out. I'm glad to see that Penske found themselves in victory lane, especially after the Indy win as well. That was kind of the whole talk with the Indy guys up in the studio, and so it was good to see Team Penske be able to pull it off this weekend with the doubleheader. And it was definitely, I know what you're trying to say. It was more you're getting at the Martin Truex dominant thing, but I tell you what, it wasn't much more dominant watching somebody go through the field twice and had the strongest car, and there was nothing nobody really could do with Ryan Blaney. His own pit crew was the only thing that could do anything for Ryan Blaney.
I think Bell was probably his closest competition, especially at the end.
For sure, and that was I questioned that last pit stop where they took 4 tires. It felt kind of like they were leaning towards with Ty Gibbs kind of being the favorite there. And of course, Ty, I don't believe, come in and got any tires, did he? He stayed out, or what was Ty's deal there? I know he wound up falling back to, I think it was 4th where he finished at. But for Kyle Busch, and great point there, CJ, for Kyle Busch to come back, he finished 17th. Austin Dillon ran the top 10 most of the day and finished 16th. So Kyle had to go completely around the world to basically finish right behind teammate Austin Dillon. What is very sad at this point in time is, I think over the last couple of years, Austin Dillon has been considerably better than Kyle Busch, and I'm not sure that ever could have been imagined in statistical terms, that Austin Dillon is actually outperforming Kyle Busch. That last caution really did kind of change up the race. Ty had a really good car. When they called for pit stops and Christopher Bell went and took 4 tires, I was like, man, what in the world? Are they just trying to make it easier for Ty Gibbs? to get the win. I mean, because he's going to have to hold off. It's one thing. 4 tires a lot of times is the better way to go for sure, but depending on how far back it actually set him, and I think after that last pit stop, Christopher Bell got pushed all the way back to 8th. So to see him come back from that and try to make a run there at the end, which he was closing the gap. Had it been a couple more laps, I'm pretty sure Christopher Bell would have probably caught up to Ryan Blaney based off of the tires and stuff. But all around, I mean, Toyota had a great performance over the weekend. Ford really, they won the race, but that's about as far as that goes. Even Keselowski and Chris Buescher, I think they finished somewhere in the top 15. So that was 10th through 11th through 15th. I think it was Buescher finished 14th and Keselowski finished 15th. How about that? So one of the guys that I think at the end of the race that I was shocked with was Shane Van Gisbergen, right? Shane spun it twice throughout the race and somehow still managed a top 15 finish. As a matter of fact, stats say that he finished 11th. So definitely the comeback kid. Wow. Shane Van Gisbergen has learned a lot over the last year. I did listen to Brett Keselowski on Dirty Mo radio today, and I was glad that I did because I really didn't get anything from Door Bumper Clear. I don't know what's going on with that show, but it just seems like content's falling off. They're more about getting Northeastern, no offense, Northeastern modified guys on that show these days than they are, really getting in good content and whatnot. I love Tommy Baldwin. I love Freddie Kraft. They're both from the Northeast. But Randy LaJoy and all these other characters that they brought onto there I just remember Door Bumper Clear being a lot more fun and a lot more interactive in news topics. So I wasn't really able to pull much from there. Of course, Denny Hamlin is out on vacation, so his was kind of tough to watch just because it was done through I guess like what we are here, but it's not the pretty little table that they sit at. And, I just kind of felt like a slow news week going on. But catching Brett Keselowski and listening to him and what he felt about Van Gisbergen and some stuff really put into perspective of how well he's been able to perform and where that team is right now. I don't think any of us would have expected him to be sitting 5th in points right now after the first 4 races. But there he is, and he's done a heck of a job getting that taken care of. Joey Logano looked like a player early in the race. Of course, he got caught up in an incident and ruined his day. And man, what a wreck, right? I mean, there was some hard hits. Like I seen Anthony Alfredo in the 48 car subbing for Alex Bowman. That car got all 4 tires off the ground in that incident. So there was definitely some beating and banging going on. And I love the way that Keselowski basically said, look, we were only like 0.6 faster in the beginning than what we were the last time we were there. He said, but where it really come into effect was the amount of tire wear and the amount of how the more horsepower created more energy to the rear tires that burned them off faster. And I think that's why we got a little bit of a different show at Phoenix, and that's something that I think other people smarter than us, or smarter than me at least, demanded so much to higher horsepower. We expect faster speeds, but in reality, to hear Brett Keselowski explain it made a lot of better sense. Yeah, you might get an initial spurt of speed, but what it eventually happens is that horsepower is going to wear and tear on those tires, and then you're going to have to go into conservatorship to keep from burning them off. And I think that's exactly what we say. Some guys were pushing the buttons. I did not. Even though I made a meme about the Goodyear tire, when I really looked back on it, I really felt like that really Goodyear did their job. They brought a good tire. We had fall offs, we had comers and goers, and as Mr. CJ said, I think what spared us a terrible race was that Ryan Blaney had to come back from the back a couple of times to put on a good show. So, I'll send it back to you, Taz.
Yeah, I mean, like with the new horsepower package, I think Goodyear had the tire, and as I mentioned earlier, Hamlin just put out there when race teams go out hard and you're running on such low pressures with more horsepower, you're kind of at the point where you're expecting to have more tire fall off or tires blown and stuff like that. And the one thing that I want to mention with this past weekend is with the MRN broadcast, you hear details that you don't have the TV covering. And one of those being with Anthony Alfredo. For those who don't know, Anthony Alfredo has been a test/simulator driver for Hendrick Motorsports for 4 years now. Could he? I think if so my guess is that wherever Alfredo goes to run one-offs in the Cup Series, my guess would have to be like the 62 Beard car or any other Chevy team that gives him for a one-off race. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of Hendrick backing to help him out because of that connection. And I wouldn't be surprised if, and not to really jump the gun on any sort of silly season news or anything like that, being that we are 4 weeks into the 4 points paying races into the NASCAR season. But I wouldn't be surprised if Alfredo maybe gets considered for that 48 ride if this is Bowman's last hurrah with Hendrick. I mean, I know there's other options, other drivers out there who are gunning for that spot as well. But if you want to, say, stay in-house, stay with somebody that you know, that I feel like Alfredo probably would be the best suited option. I don't think he ran a terrible race at all. I think at one point he was cracking inside the top 20, if I remembered right. And I just think that outside of him on wrecking, unfortunately, I think he did pretty decent subbing in for Alex Bowman. And another thing I want to hint on is Colleague Racing. For those who don't know, I know last year, and I don't know, maybe the year before that, they had an alliance with RCR. And ever since Colleague brought Ram back into NASCAR with the Truck Series, and Colleague, I guess you could pretty much say they're on the verge of leaving Chevy and going over to Dodge or Ram for 2027. This makes the alliance with RCR diminished. Now, does this make me think that maybe Ty Dillon's out of the Colleague camp for next year if Colleague does make the switch? I see it as possibility. The other thing I could maybe see is maybe Ty Dillon, keeps true to his word and says, I'm going to stay away from Grandpa and work my own way through and try to make a career out of myself and not rely on Grandpa Richard and make something out of it.
Yeah, I've heard that there's basically a clause with his partner because RCR is not only owned by Richard Childress Racing. He has a private partner that both of his grandchildren aren't allowed to race for his enterprise at the same time. So that's kind of been the deal with Ty Dillon over his career path, is not being able to run RCR because Austin is already there driving for him. So that is a good question of whether or not down the road we see some changes there. Of course, with Colleague Racing potentially going to Dodge, there's always a chance that Ty Dillon I mean, I guess if he's not a Chevy driver, then he's got a chance. He's going to drive the Ram pickup truck this weekend, I believe, or maybe whatever it is on the next truck race that they have. I don't think we have
Darlington weekend.
Yeah, Darlington weekend. So Ty Dillon's going to be the driver in that Ram machine. So I don't know. I think that's something that hasn't been completely figured out yet. But definitely something that we're going to have to keep our eye on. And there's trouble at Richard Childress Racing. We know that they're not performing to the level that they were a few years ago when Tyler Reddick was there. They're not performing at the level that Kyle Busch was there just 3 years ago. So there's definitely some changes that need to be made in that organization to get them back competitive and up front. I just don't see when or where we're going to see that change, and if that's going to come in the next year or so. So, it seems kind of crazy that Childress is the one that's picking up on Cletus and basically turning this into a marketing fiasco for Richard Childress Racing. We'll have to see how that works out and whether or not that brings potential sponsors down the road or what. But he's had a great rally auto parts race team. So, they've always been competitive there in the lower series, but unfortunately just not been very competitive up in the Cup Series. So let's get back to where we were with the Blaney and some takeaways there from the race we had this weekend. Of course, Allgaier, he parks it in victory lane in the Xfinity race. Any big surprise with that? Justin able to pick up the win there in the Xfinity?
He had a poor start, didn't he? Like mid pack or something like that.
I think 9th or something to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he had an impressive race, I would believe. I think if Allgaier plays his cards right, this is going to be, I would say this year's probably his year of a championship to lose. Like, I feel like when it comes to consistency and points, he fits that mold very well for that series. So, I would say Allgaier impressive, being that he did not have a great start to the weekend and came out victor.
Mr. CJ?
Is this the best it gets for Allgaier? Is he like an Elliott Sadler, like kind of a lifer, and like Mike Skinner in the Truck Series, kind of just like a lifer in a lower series, and just that's his claim to fame? Is that going to be it for Allgaier?
Yeah, that's it. That's where he's at. He's kind of like he's holding the Sadler. I think that's what you just said. Basically knowing, and Hornaday did it as well. There's guys that have made career out of the lower series, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't foresee Allgaier getting another Cup opportunity, full-time Cup opportunity. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think that anybody that has experience is more than capable of running a full-time Cup Series. Whether or not he's given the proper opportunity to win, I think that's where the real hiccup comes in. Would he be a talent for a top-tier ride? If Alex Bowman were to miss the rest of the season, I don't know if Allgaier would be the full-time replacement. He's already got commitments to run in a full-time Xfinity schedule. So that would be kind of hard on him, which would be his best opportunity available in the Cup Series. So where he stands right now and what's probably available down the road, he has a chance to be the number one guy at Junior Motorsports. And look, last year Connor Zillich did things that we just thought were unimaginable. And now it's kind of, they got him out of there, and now he's up in Cup races struggling like a rookie should. So Allgaier should, have no problem getting back in gear and really running that team like he has in years past, and probably an early favorite based off the new points system probably an early favorite for the championship there in the O'Reilly Racing Park Series. Any other takeaways from the weekend? I know we've got to talk about the doubleheader, right? The doubleheader. You guys got any other things to add about the finishes of the Cup race or the Xfinity race before we move on to the doubleheader with IndyCar?
Nah, I'm ready for the doubleheader part of it.
Well, that's good. Let's let you open it up, Taz, and tell us a little bit, because I know you've had some stats that you played around with already. And honestly, my first take for the event was success. Right? I mean, one word: success. I think it was successful for both IndyCar and successful for Cup Series. My only question, and I don't know if we got a definite answer to this, was how much was that ticket to do both of those races? Because you expect a premier ticket for the Cup Series and you expect a premier ticket for the IndyCar Series. Combined together, what was the cheapest seats that were available for both? I'll see if I can try to find a breakdown when we hear from Taz.
I think it was a success on both sides of the spectrum. You had the one thing that I know the Cup broadcast mentioned was the number of IndyCar drivers that stayed back an extra day when they didn't even have to stay an extra day in Phoenix. They stayed an extra day to watch the Cup race at Phoenix. And of course, when you have major motorsports like IndyCar, like NASCAR, basically the top tier of racing in America combining into one, or racing to one track on the same weekend, you're going to have a lot of eyes. The one thing I kind of looked into wasn't so much of the fans at the track in terms of numbers. The numbers I was looking at was TV viewership. Did NASCAR benefit any better with IndyCar running there, or did IndyCar benefit NASCAR, or was it not really much of an effect? Well, going back, so the Cup Series and the Spring Phoenix race last year in TV viewers, last year was a 2.82 million number. They went up very slightly this year with a 2.841. So not really much of a difference. However, going back to IndyCar side of things, IndyCar's viewership for the second race, which I should have looked up what their second race was last year. But it was not great in terms of viewership. Maybe it was good for them. I don't really know. But last year's second race of this season for IndyCar was a 704,000 viewership. And this year, with it being at Phoenix, they went up drastically with a 1.247 million viewers for the IndyCar race. And they ran on a Saturday afternoon race. So, I mean...
Correct.
So, I mean, that's a big boost right there. And where I get these TV numbers from is Adam Stern. And going on the comments for the IndyCar TV viewership ratings, a lot of fans they're not commenting, they're not saying, they're shouting, they're yelling, they're wanting more ovals, they want more doubleheader weekend races. So I think what maybe I'm getting out of this is IndyCar is trying to benefit more with NASCAR. They're trying to give viewers big time, get eyeballs big time, more than NASCAR is, and I guess they're trying to push for more NASCAR and IndyCar working together and come up with more doubleheader races or race weekends. I don't know. Your takeaway from that?
But does this benefit NASCAR? Does it benefit NASCAR to help another series grow? I don't know.
I think in terms of drivers and team-wise, maybe. Because like I said, you had drivers stay an extra day when they didn't even need to watch the Cup race. In terms of fans, just by this one weekend, it barely benefited NASCAR. But if we try to double header maybe somewhere else, maybe we could really judge and say, does this benefit NASCAR in the long run?
Yeah, I think what it says the most is that IndyCar viewers definitely want more oval tracks than road courses, which is kind of funny because IndyCar was originally an oval series and it turned over the last decade into more of a road course type series, and now it feels like they're kind of on their way back to ovals. I think I've seen a very big increase in viewership based off of what I really don't know why we saw almost a double in their viewership. I mean, 500,000 people more to almost 600,000, right? That viewed this race this week versus in years past. And I just wonder why that had such an increase, because it was at a track where NASCAR fans were. Just maybe the NASCAR fans were more in tune to watching IndyCar, and that doesn't really benefit the core NASCAR fan to watch another series. It helps IndyCar for sure, but I just don't see where it helped the NASCAR. We didn't have any crossover drivers. I was surprised by that. I was looking forward to maybe getting some crossovers as we've seen in the years past, and maybe that will come together if we do more doubleheader type style racing. But even at St. Petersburg, we had Dario Franchitti and all running. But I do understand that based off of how the approval process and whatnot is for NASCAR, it's really hard for these guys to just show up and do a one-off for NASCAR.
Another factor for the IndyCar side of things, in comparison to last year, this year, now that I got to look at now I'm looking at last year's IndyCar schedule. So last year's second race was in Thermal, California, wherever the world that is. And it was a road course. And the race was like 2 or 3 weeks later than the first race at St. Petersburg. Whereas this year, they went from the east to the west, but they went back-to-back weeks. So I don't know if they were just riding off of momentum of back-to-back weeks, or if that 3-week fall-off killed
them. Mr. CJ Sports.
Yeah, I thought she was actually going to go somewhere that I'm going to go with that here in a second, Taz. Of course, it was a win. Especially for the weekend, it'd be to be like both the LA Rams and LA Dodgers playing at SoFi Field, and fans of those teams get to go to Saturday a baseball game, Sunday a football game. Like you're getting the best of two worlds, and so I feel you got that this weekend. Definitely a lot of excitement. Obviously, the numbers are up. Where Taz, where you were talking about pulling up the schedule, that was going to be my point, was what was the second race of the season? Where was it? What was the circumstances? Was it a day that maybe the forecast, it was possibility of rain, and so a lot of people didn't tune it in, not knowing whether or not it was going to be a race, and went on with their plans on the weekend? I'd like to know what all the factors were, the track, what people thought about the track, because NASCAR fans have the same thing where certain tracks, they could care less if they really sat there and watch and kind of do, plan around certain races to not watch, or just certain tracks I have no desire to watch. And so I kind of, if I catch it, I catch it. I don't. So I would like to know those scenarios to maybe better explain why the Indy viewership went up almost 500,000 versus last year's race 2. Whether it was just that much they drew in from NASCAR fans, or whether or not there was other circumstances. Chris, to your points on whether or not it really benefits NASCAR. I feel you created this buzz, you created this excitement from drivers in both series. You got fans opportunity to kind of get the best of both worlds. So I think that knowing that there is some kind of excitement, some kind of push for this, I'm more of on this being a bigger, longer, bigger picture where maybe some of your tracks are better tracks. Kind of to Taz's point, maybe next time we have a doubleheader, we're at Daytona, where you're going to have this huge crowd that's going to turn out for it, and not just Phoenix or some one-off. Now that you know there's this big excitement, why don't you run both at Indy on the same weekend, or both run at Daytona on the weekend? Or even mix it up and maybe you guys do one of the road courses on the same weekend and give the fans both what it looks like with open wheel versus NASCAR out there. I can see the bigger picture right now looking at it, not knowing the circumstances why maybe Indy went up in such a higher viewership. And like I said, I'd really like to be able to know the details of all that. It doesn't look like it benefited NASCAR so much, but without knowing that and maybe the bigger picture because of the excitement, this could be huge. It could turn into, let's do 2 or 3 races, let's pick those hot tracks that would put on a hell of a show on both sides. Because some tracks is going. Oh, I hit the mute button. But some of those tracks Indy runs better on and NASCAR just doesn't put on a show, vice versa. So now that we got this buzz, now we got this excitement, now maybe we focus on doing this, but doing it at tracks we both know that both these cars will put on a hell of a show and kind of give the race fans an opportunity to see it from 2 different aspects, what it's like from the open wheel experience and the NASCAR experience. I think that will possibly be where NASCAR really sees the benefits from it.
Yeah, I checked the ticket prices real quick, Taz. Let me get this in. I checked the ticket prices real quick, and it was like $60 for Saturday and $60 for Sunday. Not bad. $120 got you 2 Premier Series races. We've definitely seen higher ticket prices. That was on the lower end, but definitely on a weekend we can go to Talladega, and I think it's like $70 a piece, and that includes the Saturday event and the Sunday event. But when you're asking 2 Premier Series to be at the same place, you're going to have a Premier ticket for both days. But $60 a piece, that's not too bad. So I'm kind of impressed with that. Taz?
The one thing in terms of not necessarily ovals in particular, and I had to see ovals because I know IndyCar fans are wanting more ovals for the IndyCar series. But I think when it comes to doubleheader situations, I know Daytona was mentioned, Indy's mentioned. Regardless if it's like Indy running the road course to NASCAR running the oval the same weekend, or Indy running the Indy Roval versus NASCAR running the Brickyard Oval. It doesn't. I don't think. I think if NASCAR really wants to see, if NASCAR and IndyCar really want to see this hype continue, obviously the biggest gimmies would be going to the bigger tracks like Indy and Daytona, for example. But I think they'll really get a good jump on this is to kind of look at tracks like, say, I think IndyCar hits up Michigan. I could be wrong on that one. Go to like Michigan. Go to like a common type of track that doesn't have like a big event.
Louis,
just
Texas.
Texas is another one. Even do like Watkins Glen, or if both of them could run the same street course. I know we tried the Truck Series, but why not try the Cup Series on a street course or something like that? But yeah, I would go to like a more like not so much a low end, but like a common like racetrack that doesn't have like that big event feel. just so you kind of have a general consensus and general numbers. Because
what about Atlanta? Since we like the what we saw at Atlanta from the Cup Series,
Atlanta would not be a bad option in that aspect.
Let me check out when was the last time Atlanta had an IndyCar race. It's been a while.
it sucks they shut down Kentucky because I know Indy used to run at Kentucky as well. Because that's when my father and my brother used to talk about they go to Kentucky. I always assumed they were going to the NASCAR race, and I found out that they were going to the Indy race. And of course, the Cup guys went there. I went there many times with the Cup guys. So it kind of sucks they shut that down because that would be a track that was obviously good to put on a decent show for both of them.
Yeah, so the ovals that IndyCar is hitting up this year, obviously Phoenix, we know that.
Had both of them used to run. They used to run Chicagoland.
So Indy does. Indy this year is running at Worldwide Technology Raceway, or Gateway, as the common people know. There's that one. There's Nashville Super Speedway. So there's already two, I guess you could say, common type of tracks that IndyCar and NASCAR could look into because both series run there. The IndyCar does run Portland, so there's a road course race there. I believe the O'Reilly series runs that one, not the Cup. Not anymore. They don't anymore? Okay.
No.
All right, so I guess you could say that one's a wash. And then IndyCar runs the Milwaukee Mile. Why can't NASCAR return there?
That would be a great weekend. Please. I like that. Yeah. Milwaukee Mile. And look, they did a lot of renovation to that racetrack to get it back, so I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. I believe this is the first year that Milwaukee's actually been on the schedule, so we'll have to check that one out. But yeah, Nashville, it's a go. St. Louis, it's a go. And look, let's do one for IndyCar and one for NASCAR, right? We'll go out to St. Petersburg and run the street course. I love a street course. I don't have nowhere near the problem with the street course that I have with road course racing. And then we'll let those guys follow us and back us up at maybe a St. Louis or Nashville or.
My only one concern, though, and I mentioned this because I remember back when SRX was running at Stafford, I know that when you run one typical track for so long, like the weekly, like at Stafford, the main tire there is Hoosier, and the rubber laid down on that track is Hoosier, whereas as SRX, they run Goodyear tires. So when you're trying to lay down Goodyear rubber to grab grip, you're fighting with the rubber that's already there, and it's a different rubber. So IndyCar runs, I think General Tire. If not, I don't remember. No, I think it might be Firestone. But either way, they run a different rubber than NASCAR does. So if they do a Cup Series, IndyCar Series doubleheader, would NASCAR have to bring another series so they could lay down that Goodyear rubber to help the Cup guys out?
That was funny that you said that because that was some of the commentating that if you watched the IndyCar race, they were impressed with the amount of rubber that was on the racetrack, which they said fed into a better racetrack for the IndyCars. So that is interesting how rubber can basically dictate series and whether or not the track feels good or a little bit loose or whatnot. We do have a guy, Alpha Guy. He asked, is it okay to ask a question on here? You're more than welcome to ask a question, Mr. Alpha Guy. We encourage that and look forward to reading your question online here. But if you'll go ahead and shoot that to us, maybe we can answer whatever it is that you've got going on. But yes, it is okay. All right. Maybe we'll get that question asked in just a second. CJ, anything to follow up with what Taz was talking about?
I don't No, I was trying to remember. I got side question because I sent a message in the chat saying someone had a question to ask, so I forgot where we was even at. Maybe not so much. I agree. Maybe not so much Daytona or in Indy, but I wouldn't mind seeing in Atlanta or Milwaukee Mile or Michigan or something, just to kind of maybe 2-3 races throughout the year. Nothing overwhelming. Nothing. I would like them to see some kind of. I like to see him do some kind of package deal, even if it was only $10 off the package deal that help incentivize people to go to both races. And you're not really taking much off that ticket on those $60 tickets. Make it $110. Maybe that pushes somebody to go to both races, saving just a little bit of money versus maybe only picking one or the other. Or didn't really have plans, but you know what? If I go, I get to go this one for it's only So I think if we're going to do this, maybe you do something not too significant because it is 2 premier series, but a little something to kind of incentivize the race fans to really come out and support this and be there both days.
All right, so we got a question coming in, and I just breathe hard over this one. How many people believe that 2311 was given the first 3 wins of NASCAR? The 2026 season. So look, I think there's a lot of people that believe that. Is it true? Absolutely not. Uh, I understand that there have been questions of the integrity of the sport and whether or not certain drivers have been given specific advantages throughout, racing. You can fall back to the McDonald's conspiracy with Jimmy Spencer or the Dale Earnhardt Jr. conspiracy in 01. At the July race. There's been certain things admitted later on down the road that may have shown that they got some kind of competitive advantage at the top, but I don't think that it was in knowings or, NASCAR knew that at the time that they were cheating or something in that area that gave them a specific advantage. In this day and age and whatnot, I just don't see where NASCAR could benefit or 2311 would benefit by some kind of overthrown conspiracy that NASCAR was going to allow Tyler Reddick to win the first 3 races of the year. And I think what says it more than anything is the fact of, don't you think that they would have allowed like Bubba Wallace to win one? Don't you think? I mean, why did it have to be Tyler Reddick for all 3 events, right? I mean, Bubba Wallace is definitely a name that they want in the news and winning races for the popularity of the sport. But Reddick has shown from the beginning that he was. This guy had 3 wins at RCR, right? 3 wins. Nobody had gotten 3 wins in 10 years at RCR when Tyler Reddick did it. So, since Harvick had left, the organization really had gone to the pits. And we're talking about a guy who won a Truck Series championship, won an Xfinity Series, now a Rally Racing Parts Series championship. So I don't give any real thought that NASCAR threw the races or anything like that to get Tyler Reddick to win the first 3 races. And why stop at 3, right? Well, let's just do 4 and 5 and really, shake the tree and make it, unbelievable. Look, Christopher Bell won 3 races last year at the beginning of the season. Tyler Reddick did it. He just did it with the first 3 races and not after Daytona. So that was the only really head scratcher there, that we've never had a 3-time winner open up the season, but we've had plenty of 3-time winners throughout.
I think Bell did on 3 different tracks last year too.
Oh yeah, it was right here, right? It was. I think it started with Coda or something like that, or maybe.
It was Atlanta, Coda, and Phoenix.
Yeah. So Bubba already called it out by jealousy, and he knew he couldn't have done it by giving it to the minority. I don't, like I said, I think that if the fix was in, it wouldn't have just been with one car. As a matter of fact, as an organization, in sponsorships, I would want to make sure that my other cars got in on the conspiracy as well. But I do have faith that our sport is competitive at the highest levels, and I just don't foresee NASCAR giving in to some kind of crazy conspiracy to allow a certain team to win the season. I mean, let's be honest here. Front Row Motorsports should have their name kicked around as well They were part of the lawsuit. I know it was Michael Jordan's money, but Bob Jenkins stood firm and stayed in that lawsuit as well. So no, I don't find that to be any truth or anything to that matter. As a matter of fact, it's degrading to the sport to even think that could be the case. Michael Jordan went to court. He won fair and square. Of course, the court never really finished with whatever it was that they were going to decide. A settlement come in, and so all of that kind of went away. But I do know that Jordan wanted forever evergreen charters, and that's exactly what race teams have. And the value of those charters are now very, very high because of that. So I am very grateful of the lawsuit and what was able to come about. I do not believe that in any means possible was there. Okay. All right. Well, Alpha Guy, you just think I'm not going to give you the old Dave Moody, and I want you to continue to watch along with us. But I'm not going to give any more into the conspiracy thought that Reddick was given some race wins.
We have another hour to get some topics.
Yeah, we've got a whole lot of other stuff to go. Let's do our poll. Is it our poll question or what is?
No, it's your stat of the day.
All right, let's go.
We need our jingle.
Stat of the day. Stat of the day. Bop bop. Stat of the day. Who's the stat of the day?
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Stat of the day. Hendrick Motorsports has won 4 of the last 5 spring races at Las Vegas, including Larson's most recent Pennzoil 400 victory. So that is our stat of the day. Stat of the day. Bop bop. Stat of the day. All right. We want to thank.
Don't worry, Mr. CJ. I caught you laughing down there too.
Oh my
You ain't getting away clean on this one.
So don't forget, Fan for Racing has a whole list of shows that they pop out weekly. Go check out their YouTube page or their Facebook page. You can check out the 110 Nation Facebook page and YouTube page as well. We've been putting out some shorts from the show and some funny moments and whatnot. All the cool stuff that we talk about here can be found on our pages as well. And we want to thank, once again, Fan for Racing for giving us an opportunity to be here on their network, sharing all kinds of cool stuff and talking about racing weekly here on the Fan for Racing radio group. Up next is Under the Hood, a deep dive discussion. Of course, does somebody have the soundbite ready for our jump dive, our 2026 dive into the NASCAR? Hold on.
Oh, geez, he's doing it again. Come on, get. I don't hear it. I thought I heard it for a minute.
Okay, it's not working. All right, so.
Ding ding. There you go. I did it for you.
Let's see. Hold on.
Welcome back to the courtroom. Not getting anything if it's going anywhere.
It's not going through?
No.
What? I hear it in my ear. So I don't know. That's weird. All right. I'm not sure why that didn't work. Maybe we'll try to find some. I heard it in my ear. So maybe that's just I don't know. Mama Bear in the house. Thank you, Mama Bear, for being a part of the show. I feel like we're kind of struggling today, which it was a slow news week, and it really took a lot of effort to put this show together to try to make it as suspenseful as possible. I guess NASCAR JGR hired a PI to follow Gabehart. There have been pictures exposed of Chris Gabehart sitting down with Jeff Dickerson, looks like over some coffee and maybe some donuts. Any other news about NASCAR and where this may be going or where it's headed?
I haven't heard any news, but I know little the grandpappy grandchild
Grandpa Ty Gibbs is, making a statement, making comments that Chris Gabehart screwed my team over.
That's a pretty good Ty Gibbs impression. I like it.
Now listen here, Ty gets everything he wants. All he's got to do is ask Grandpa Joe. That's all he's got to do. But no, just I guess Ty made comments about the whole, team is performing better without Gabehart, and maybe, since we're on the thought of conspiracies, that
if Ty Gibbs could run the purple car like Denny Hamlin used to, he could be fast again.
Or fast finally, maybe. I don't know about
yeah,
fast
right.
Again.
No, I say fast again because he was fast in the O'Reilly series or Xfinity series, but ever since he got in the Cup, he's been slow freaking Gibbs, except for the road courses. But
well, and he popped off this week, right? I think that team needed it, and he made statements that basically he felt like he had the right people around him and people that were going to make his race team better. And as somebody who's obviously been under fire before, it's good to know that the people that he has around him have his back, right? And I think he needs that more than ever right now, just based off of the controversy that's been stirred. Whether Ty Gibbs fails or succeeds, I think it's gonna be how they handle the situation further, right? We've heard Austin Dillon under fire for years. We've heard Ty Dillon under fire for years because Grandpa fed him a golden spoon. Well, a silver spoon. Well, in reality, I mean, Ricky Hendrick got a chance to race for Hendrick, right? He got it his chance. So it's not the first time that we've had nepotism in NASCAR. It's definitely something that happens a lot, as a matter of fact. I feel like Richard Childress put his grandchildren through what was necessary for them to be competitive at the Cup level by giving them, a chance to start on dirt, and then bringing them up to the Truck Series and then into the Xfinity Series or the O'Reilly Racing Series, and then on to Cup. So Ty Gibbs has been given this platform, and he's succeeded at each of the levels until here. Is there a chance that he'll, get it turned around and become a successful Cup driver? I really do. I think that that's a possibility. The longer he's in a Cup car, the more likely, and especially with a top tier team, the more likely that he'll, get a win or two in his career. Whether or not he's going to be competitive as, Denny Hamlin or Christopher Bell, I just don't see him at that level. Have not seen that yet. But coming off of what's been happening here the last few weeks in Holland and the whole NASCAR situation, I do believe that this was a breath of fresh air for Ty. He came off a good finish at COTA. Then he's had a good finish here this week at Phoenix. Had a chance to win the race. I think that, actions speak louder than words. And do I still believe that Chris Gabehart was probably given a tough hand and may have wanted out of a situation that was kind of a no-win situation? Absolutely. And look, we've all known how it is to be somewhere for too long, longer than what you should have been, and how you start to kind of react to management and you get a little mouthy. And I mean, we've all had jobs that we didn't like. We've all had overstayed our welcome at a couple of jobs that we've worked at. And maybe that's just where Chris Gabehart was. Obviously it was, because he was meeting with Dickerson December 2nd about a potential job opportunity. So I believe at that time he was still under contract and was in a pretty high position there at JGR. So I know that there's some fluid in this court case that they've got against Gabehart. The question is, how will this come about? What is going to be decided in the court case, and whether or not, I guess, a crew chief that actually owns his notes that he takes or that he puts down when he's with a specific team. And I think that in itself, being how the car has changed, that is the area that's going to be challenged, and that's going to be where I think we're going to see changes in the future with Cup teams. Do I believe that this certain court case can have a negative effect on the amount of talent and the engineers that you can bring into your organization? Absolutely. Chris Gabehart may have given people the chance to kind of scratch their head and question whether or not JGR is a place where they would want to be employed at in the future based off of the allegations. And anytime you have people in racing that sue other people in racing, you kind of get kind of weary of what their ulterior motives are. So obviously, Joe Gibbs believes that there was some intellectual property taken, and he believes that his team was not treated fairly, as Chris Gabehart was kind of playing both fences. I can't wait to see how that comes about. $8 million is a whole lot of money to get sued for, and so they must have some kind of case against him. Taz, I feel like you're biting at the bit, Mr. CJ Sports. You want to give your thoughts, or you want to let Taz go ahead and get in his second?
Mr. CJ, give your thoughts if you have any, because I'm just going to make one quick stupid comment that you all might laugh at. So
mine was going to be short. Mine's just short as well. I just the drama, like it's just like a soap opera. Like guys complain about women and their wives, and you watch Guiding Lights, and you watch Young and the Restless, and here we watch WWE and NASCAR, and it's really no different. Like, it's just a big soap opera at this point.
I agree.
Well, as Ty Gibbs, I would like to thank Monster Energy for giving me this Washington, D.C. shirt that's all monstered out. Thank you, Monster, for supporting my Washington football team that Grandpa coached too.
Now, wait a minute. Let's talk about Monster Energy real quick, because I've seen some rumors, and it did make Jay Ski this week, that Monster Energy has a potential. They've had conversation
Carson, right?
with Spire Motorsports and with Coach and Hocevar about potentially sponsoring. Now, Monster Energy's been all over the place with sponsorship. They have a sponsorship with
Reddick.
With Reddick, of course. They have a sponsorship with Riley Herbst with the 35.
I know they did with Deegan at one point, if they are not still with her.
And then the 54 car through Ty Gibbs. So Monsters kind of come in and they've thrown a little bit of money around from time to time. So not really a
Kurt Busch too.
A huge, right? Kurt, of course. Kurt and Kyle kind of what brought Monster Energy to the Cup Series. And as a matter of fact, before they were in the Cup Series, they were prominent with the Kyle Busch number 54 race team down in the O'Reilly Racing Series. So definitely some things to kick around. Whether or not Gabehart may have had, some sponsor tampering there, I think is some of the things that's at question as well. But as you said, Mr. CJ Sports, I think it's time to take the NASCAR off the show here, because it's just, like you said, it just seems to be a continuation of drama, and it's really not, it's not good for the sport. It's not something that I feel like we should glamour all the time and whatnot. And look, it's going to have repercussions, just as the other lawsuit did as well earlier there. So Damien, I believe, is looking for the show link. I'm not sure. I think we've been shared around to the pages. Mama Bear in the house, Ms. Lee, what's up? Glad to have you on board with us. Let's get into the Alex Bowman situation, because Alex Bowman has missed the last couple of races. Now, it was said by Mike Joy that he did not get out of the car at Coda because of vertigo. Then a statement was put out later that Mike Joy had misinterpreted his information, and that it was because of vertigo that Alex Bowman stepped out of the race car. What I've not heard is whether there was a concussion or something maybe the week prior that caused the vertigo. We haven't got a specific diagnosis of why he had vertigo, but this is going to be a big, game changer for the 48 race team. There's no longer a win and you're in strategy where you can win a race and catapult yourself from 35th, 36th place, 34th, or up to 16th or 12th or wherever you may be on the wins list. Now you have to win and get points too in order to make that 16 cutoff field. So missing the next two races is detrimental to the 48 race team and their ability to maybe race for a championship later on down the road. What are the long-term implications? I know, Mr. CJ Sports, you kind of brought this topic to the board here earlier today, so I'm going to let you go first. First of all, Miss Lee, who's had a little bit of experience herself in the nursing field, so vertigo can be related to keeping your head in one spot for a length of time. Think of them in the Hans device. Okay. It can also be caused by concussions. It can be caused by several different health issues. But vertigo is nothing to play with because it really has a lot to do with the balance of your body, the stability of your spine and your neck and whatnot. And when that's off, and you feel, I guess you kind of feel a little top heavy as you walk around. So definitely nothing to play with there. Taz, what you got? No, I'm sorry, Mr. CJ Sports. You were the one. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, like I was talking to you guys earlier, I am all a fan for this. I don't want to take this as well. They need to change this. But what I brought up earlier for those that are listening, Alex Bowman, at this point, they pretty much, the show I was listening to earlier today, talked about that Alex Bowman would pretty much have to win like the next 10 races to even make the playoffs. And it's probably a little bit exaggerated, but it's probably a lot of reality to that as well. And last year, you pretty much, when you're in, and if you missed a couple races, you got a pass or whatever. I can't remember the actual word they used for
Waiver.
it. Waiver. There you go. I couldn't think of it earlier when we was talking about it too. That's why I said the other way. Or said pass earlier too. And then you were free to go, and you got to be in the chase. And so I was not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of the waiver. Now, I understand there's been a couple times that drivers have gotten a waiver, and this is not just because I'm a Kyle Busch fan, but the time that and since then they paved it to help slow down the car, but it used to be grass in the infield, and he ended up slamming into the inside wall, which messed up both of his legs. He was out for a couple races, then he got a waiver, came back, and was a terror on the rest of the season and won the championship. Tony Stewart, I had no problem with his waiver, where the guy got out in the middle of the track and he ran him over, and ended up killing him, and he missed a couple races for that. I get it. Not a fan of the waiver of Chase Elliott, who hurt himself skiing. It had nothing to do with racing or NASCAR, period. So I was never really a big fan of the waiver. I could understand it under certain circumstances why there was a waiver, though. We don't have the when you're in. All this doesn't apply this year. So now we're kind of at a cross point with all this money coming in, sponsorships and everything else. Does NASCAR need to do something? Do they need to change anything in your guys' opinion? Like I said, I'm fine with the way it is, but I also don't like the charter system. I want the fastest 36 or 40 cars, whatever size field we're going with, out there. I don't want the 36 cars that could afford to buy a charter to be the ones on the track. I want the fastest 36 or the fastest 40 to Daytona. And if you're not, I was going to say Dale Jr. Well, I was about to date myself. If Alex Bowman, since we're talking about Alex Bowman, is not the fastest 40th car out there, then he doesn't make the race. Not because he has a charter and is automatically guaranteed to be. And I'm not a fan of that, but that's just my personal opinion. And I know I'm in a very small group when it comes to that. But more to this point, does NASCAR, in your guys' opinion, need to change anything? Because now we could possibly have drivers, our favorite drivers, be in contention. Something happened, they get hurt or they get sick, and legitimate, and now can't make the chase because you don't have the win and in, and it's structured differently.
So I know that I'm gonna, before I give my thoughts, I'm gonna give the quick rule of thumb of things. So typically, say for instance, if Alex Bowman, like with Coda, started the race, then puts a substitute driver in, the driver, whatever, if the substitute driver were to gain any points after replacing Alex Bowman, all the points would go to Alex Bowman. But if say if the substitute driver starts the race and whatever points they gain. It does not go towards Alex Bowman unless Alex Bowman at some point in that race gets into that car. I know the 2024 of the version of the Coke 600 where Larson was attempting the double. He came. Allgaier was the substitute driver for him as he was running late to get to Charlotte because Indy got delayed for their race. Allgaier started the race. Whatever points Allgaier had gotten up until the rain came in did not count towards Larson. With Larson, with the rain basically ending the race because they were more than halfway in. Larson could not actually make a lap under that race at any circumstance. So all of those points, so any points that Allgaier earned did not go towards Larson.
Since in every other sport, you're not required. Tom Brady gets hurt now for 2 games. He's still going to the Super Bowl. So with the rules being how they are, and how you explain, which is all correct, should the driver, say Alex Bowman, be able to get the points this weekend? Because no other sport are you required to be there all 36. Well, hell, you're not even. Some of them don't even have that many games, but you're not even required to be there every game and still be able to be a champion and still make your Super Bowl or your NBA Finals or whatever. So should that be something maybe they, look into changing, or both of them get? Well, I guess you can't give them both points, but I mean, like I said, I don't want to change because I'm all about being on the field. And
see, that's a tough call because like.
I'm fascinated with that idea, though.
I mean, it's a tough call because with NASCAR now having owners' points, that's how they can get away with the whole. That's how they can get away with your earning points for that certain race car team, but you're not earning points for the driver who that car belongs to. Like, I'm for having a substitution for. So, say for instance, Alex Bowman. Okay, this will be race number 2. He misses. I'm all for substitute drivers gaining points for the driver who that car is supposed to be belong to, but there should be a limit to it. So, like, say, for instance, if Bowman misses, say, 5 races, I feel like the limit should be 3. That's my opinion if that were to be implemented.
I don't see any need for it. I don't. If we're gonna go back to the old style points racing, then that's part of it. You got to show up and be healthy. If not, it's just not your year. Ernie Irvan's had to step out of a race car. Bill Elliott's had to step out of a race car, and that ruined their championship chances. I understand where Mr. CJ Sports is coming from. I'm fascinated with the idea that maybe team structurally somehow you can put in a relief driver for 2 races without having to start or whatever, because of course, and concussions and whatnot. But I mean, let that just be part of where the sport is now. If you get hurt, you're probably not going to go race for a championship. You've got to have the points in order to accumulate to get there. Now, what will happen is we'll see something like we've seen similar in the, ownership championships and whatnot in the past previous years where certain drivers have gotten hurt or left out or whatever. And you had ownership the point standings and you have the driver point standings and they don't equal out to each other. Can the 48 teams still go race for an ownership championship? Absolutely. And if Alex Bowman gets hot and wins 5 races at the end, I think that you'll have a lot of guys that are saying, wait a minute, maybe the system isn't the correct way. But as of right now, that's just part of the system that we've got. And these guys are going to have to race it. I feel, without a doubt, Alex Bowman's chance for a championship this year is flushed down the drain. Either that or he's going to come in and be one of the hottest drivers in the Cup Series since Connor Zilli did the O'Reilly Race Series last year, or Corey Haim. He's going to have to put together something like that. And It just hasn't been done before, and I doubt it will be done by him. So,
I remember.
That is something that I think, Mr. CJ Sports, you got a great point of whether or not we do need to get to that, because the sport could suffer if we get a couple of drivers with a couple of concussions. Chase Elliott,
especially with the sponsors.
Right, and how that's going to be detrimental to them. Look, I was always for the win in your end. I've stated here many times of why I felt like that was a good thing for the sport, because it allowed people to catapult themselves from negative tier 3 race teams into some kind of competitive advantage based off of strategy and wins. Now we're going to see a separation between the good teams and the bad teams further than we've ever seen before. And look at our championship. I mean, a guy's getting 25 more points for winning the race, and we know what 3 teams win races, right? It's on a consistent basis. It's Hendrick, it's Gibbs, it's Penske. So these guys are already going to separate themselves from the field. Now they're going to get guaranteed 15th and 16th in the point standings. And this is, we're back to the old school, racing every point that matters. And that means that the 48 team won't be looking for a championship this year. And they'll need to start building for what they expect the 48 team to be next year. It gives them a good jump on that.
Yeah, you mentioned sponsors, and I know Ally's been with Bowman ever since he went to the 48 team. And I don't mean that just in NASCAR. Bowman's partnered with Ally in his sprint car team. So now the question remains is, should Hendrick, say, give Bowman the boot after this year? Does Ally stay committed to Hendrick, or does Ally jump ship with Bowman? That's now that Mr. CJ remembers, makes a comment about the sponsorship side of things, but I remember, now that you mentioned ownership points, I do remember one year the Spire 77 team ran full time, but it was always multiple drivers, and they qualified for the playoffs based on the rain shortened win that Justin Haley got at Daytona. The 2311 camp with the 45 car, where Kurt Busch got sidelined because of concussion and couldn't race the rest of the season. The 45 car made the ownership playoffs, but there was a driver replaced Kurt Busch in the drivers' championship. So, I mean, there's that aspect, but that's the rules we're given. Those are the cards we're dealt with. I guess you could say I see both sides of the coin, but I feel like, but personally, I think, in my opinion, if you show up for the race, you are the one for the points. It's like that in dirt track racing. Chris, you know this too. Like, if you show up, you get points. If you don't show up, then you don't get jack squat.
Right. So why, not to cut you off, but why don't you feel the same way if a driver has to get out of the car? Like, if you can't finish the race, then why should you get the rest of the points? Why not the driver, the person that got stuck in your situation that you're getting out of? Why should he not get the points? Because now he's got to come from behind, because you got to go the whole driver switch and everything else.
See, and that one's more complicated though, because
I can see a reserve set, right? 3 races, you garner points from a backup driver that gives you a chance to kind of keep your name in the mix. But at the same time, it just either we're going to choose the win and you're in, or we're going to choose the point system. I like the old point system, if that's what we're going to do.
I personally prefer the point system over win and you're in. I know I hear Chris's point to the win and you're in side of things, but I've just been more on the side of consistency. Let the points determine the champion, not have a game 7 entertaining moment. It's not what, to me, that's not what racing is about. We're not any other sport where it comes down to a one-game type of deal or a Game 7 type of deal, just because in other sports, they don't have as many other variables as what racing has, so I'm just more on the point side of things.
As long as we don't go back to my very first race was Atlanta 95. Jeff Gordon won the championship. He had to finish 35th or better. Pretty much just start the car, turn the lap, you win a championship. As long as we don't get back to those days, I am open for whatever to make it better. I just don't want to go back to the days that you can walk into the last race of the season and your championship's just determined already by someone just turning their car on. I just don't want to get there.
And unfortunately, that's where we are.
I don't know if we're really there. I don't want to jump to that gun like you are, Chris, because I want to see how this modified point structure really plays out, because we have stage racing involved, which is extra points. The regular season champion gets a 25-point advantage. I know going down second to third, there's like a 10-point cushion, and everybody else is at 5. So, I mean, other than that 25-point cushion, nobody has really much of an advantage. And I don't really know or think in 10 races. I mean, there is that possibility, but I don't think we're going to go into what what Mr. CJ mentioned, and say somebody has to turn the car on and they're the champion for the final race. I don't think this point system will have that problem. I mean, very may possible if somebody dominates the last 10 races of the season. That's probably the only way I could see it happening.
Okay, let's get into the poll question. It's a pretty simple poll question. We've already posted it on our Facebook. Does this Alex Bowman stepping out of the vehicle, does that automatically, mathematically eliminate them from the 2026 playoffs or the race to the chase? And I think I would absolutely say yes, this does eliminate the 48 team from being able to race in the chase outside of some kind of crazy miracle. And Alex Bowman struggled already. He's the 4th car basically at Hendrick Motorsports. I really do feel like it would be, the Angels have a better chance of winning the pennant than the Wizards have a better chance of winning the basketball championship than
my Browns have a better chance of winning the Super Bowl. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, for sure. Than Alex Bowman racing for a championship this year. But I mean, at the same time, look, it gives the 48 team a chance to reset. Maybe, who knows, maybe they go out there and make a big splash in free agency and bring somebody along. Let's go to standout shout-outs and shout-downs. The ones who really suffer is the crew. They train and bust their ass for sure to win races and championships. They already know they won't get it done. How does that play into their strategy? Look, I think some of them probably want to get traded, right? Some of them want to go they want to put forth their best performance so that if they do, if there's a right tire changer or something to that effect in one of these other teams.
I think that's where the owner's points kind of play off better for them, right, versus the driver's points.
Yeah, so
because I was saying, Chris, from what I understand, what I heard earlier, the owners pay out as much significantly higher than the drivers paid out. So, of course, they're more worried about that anyway.
Right. And look, I mean, you've got guys who are going to try to be on somebody else's team in the playoffs. We've watched the rearrangement of crews and stuff when playoffs start or the chase will start. They're going to put their best guys on the cars. As a matter of fact, Brad Keselowski kind of talked about that today or yesterday with the Dale Jr. download. Basically, that during the win and you're in to scenario, once you were kind of established yourself in the playoffs, that your good equipment and stuff started going to the other teams to see if they could catapult that team into the playoffs. And so he said he really feels like all that's going to kind of calm down. You're going to be able to keep your team, keep your equipment and whatnot, and focus just on you trying to get to that almighty championship. Let's go to standout shout-outs and shout-downs. We're going to have to speed it up a little bit. Justin Allgaier, Christopher Bell, and Brad Keselowski this week. These are the three names that kind of stood out throughout the weekend. And I'll start it out. Justin Allgaier, I'm going to give him a shout out. Welcome back. Glad to see you back at the top of the reins again over there at Junior Motorsports. After last year getting you butt whipped by Connor Zilli, kind of probably didn't taste too good. And just glad to see you get it back together and start to win races again. Christopher Bell, I still blame you, JGR, that calling a four-tire strategy. I really think Christopher Bell had the ability to win that race. So I'm going to give a standout to Christopher Bell for never giving up and driving back up to the second spot. And Brad Keselowski, just an all-around shout-out to Keselowski. I mean, he come into the season hurt. We didn't know if he was going to be able to finish the race at COTA. Not only has he done that, but he's kept himself in the top 10 in the points. Really started the season strong. He's got, he's a man of many hats. He's the owner. He's a race car driver. He's up for a contract. Can you believe that? An owner that's up for a contract. There's a lot of things going on over at RFK. They're going to have to find a third charter somewhere if they're going to keep three full-time race teams, or at least you expect them to find a third charter, being that one is going to eventually go to Legacy Motor Club next year. So he's got his hands full, but, man, he's kicking it right along and keeping that team competitive. And I just wanted to give a specific shout-out to that. But Taz Taylor, shout-outs, standouts, shout-downs.
All right, so my comments, you pretty much took my comments away from me, Chris. But I'm going to do a reverse roll on you. And I'm going to do a shout out to Allgaier and a standout to Christopher Bell, or the other way around, however you had it. I feel, yes, we can sit here and say, damn you, JGR, but Bell did what Bell drove the wheels out of that car to even come close to the end of that race. So, yes, I know Allgaier's win's going to overshadow Bell, but I think Bell's run at the end, I think Bell probably, as I said beginning of the show, he probably wanted like another 3 to 5 laps, and he would have really been tired wheel to wheel with Blaney. And I personally would have wanted to see that. So I give props to Bell on that one. So same comments for you, Chris. I'm just flopping Bell and Allgaier on that one.
CJ.
I guess I'm in a different boat than y'all with this whole Chris Bell and Ryan Blaney thing. And the thing is I like Chris Bell. I like Chris Bell more than I like Ryan Blaney. I think the end of the race all comes down to Ryan Blaney only taking 2 tires. I don't think, and don't get me wrong, Chris Bell had a great run going, but if Ryan Blaney goes with 4 tires, he never catches them. If there's more laps, Ryan Blaney, I feel they would have went with 4 tires. I think this, as close as it got, was because of the decision of Ryan Blaney, and that's it. It didn't matter what JGR did. I think if they would have went 2 tires, I think Ryan Blaney still would have outran them because they would have been on the same play, on the exact same play field. The only reason they got as close as they did is because the 2 tire, 4 tire, and that actually speaks more of Ryan Blaney, what he was able to do with 2 tires. But I'm going to give a shout out to Chris Bell because he did have a hell of a race to come up short. And I'm going to do a shout out for Allgaier for his performance, the O'Reilly, I keep wanting to say Xfinity Series, and a stand down for Brian Keselowski. I don't know who made the call for them in the tires, but essentially they went from being a front running team, went all the way to the back, fell back horribly. The whole team did, and had to work their way back up to finish mid pack. Don't know who made the decision, who that fell on, but that was not the right call. And I think that I think we need to reevaluate some of our decisions there and get those cars back up front. And let's see them get in victory lane and actually be a shout out or a standout.
All right. Well, look, I mean, that's a different perspective from Keselowski. I do, look, as all y'all know, I'm a big Keselowski fan. I try to plug him anytime I can. I really enjoyed the Junior download where he was sitting with TJ. Brad is so articulate. I wish I could talk as smooth and with words that he uses. He's a very smart individual. He's been around racing a long time. I respect it, and I honestly knew without a doubt that he was the key to getting Roush Fenway turned around before he got Roush Fenway turned around. So I knew that he was going to be a great asset there and was really going to bring a beautiful mind to the organization, hopefully get them back competitive. And that's where he's got them. And being in the situation that they're in, where they're not the prominent Ford team, as much as we want to think that they are, Penske's definitely got an advantage over that. But what they do bring to the table is the Roush Fenway, Yates Motors. And so that name's still, still on those engines, and it's still prominent, still comes out of their engine shop. So they do have that working for them, but they're just not in Penske type caliber equipment. They're not Penske material, if you want to pull a Seinfeld reference there. But it's cool to see you go that route, and I do respect that. Of course, seeing Keselowski run up front all day long and then falling off at the end was kind of aggravating, but I think all in all, for what he's been able to accomplish, being the injury that he had, getting out of the race car and watching the guy walk, like I have hip problems and leg problems as well. And I said, man, I mean, Keselowski was walking down pit road from the in-car camera, and it looked like they caught it, and he was walking a lot like I do. And I was like, man, I mean, that's a tough situation. It's hard to get used to when you don't have your old gangster walk like you used to have. And so big, just a thought there for Keselowski. Let's jump into the long run early look at Las Vegas. We don't have very much time to cover a preview for Las Vegas. I do want to get you guys' thoughts. Of course, our stat of the day was Chevrolet. Obviously, where's Chevy at? Has this new front nose been a reason for their lack of dominance or really stalemate season that we've seen so far? But we're rolling into Las Vegas. They won 4 out of the last 5 spring races. Kyle Larson is on a 20 race. I think I read today a 20 race lack of winning streak or whatever, losing streak, I guess you could say, from Kyle Larson. He's the previous winner here. Guys, what's going to happen this week coming up to Las Vegas? We'll start with you, Taz.
Well, I keep saying this in the fantasy report, and I'm waiting for William Byron to show up. I know Phoenix, he had a strong run. Chris, you know this, the last number of years, probably since 2018 or 2019, when Byron started to really come through, was winning races within the first 5 races of the season. We're coming up to race 5, and William Byron's winless in the first 4. So I'm waiting for Byron right here. I know Bowman has won here before. I know Larson's won here before. I'm trying to think of other Hendrick drivers that won Vegas. I'm pretty sure Byron has. But I think the break in those 5 races you're talking about of Chevy is, I want to say Logano, but I could be wrong. So I say Las Vegas, we're going to get something in the mix of Atlanta, but not so much drafting, I guess you could say. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get much of a tire pit strategy deal like we've had the last couple of races to be involved with Vegas. I don't remember Las Vegas being a pit strategy type of race at all. But I know we're going to get multiple grooves of racing. Do we see Tyler Reddick come back onto the win streak, being that with multiple grooves of racing all the way around? Is he going to be able to run the outside with Larson and make it work? I don't know.
Look, this is why you cannot trust AI. I'm being called out for this, and I'm very sorry. I've given some bad information. Larson did not win the spring race in 2025 in Las Vegas. Josh Berry did. So the last time that Larson won at the spring race was actually 2024. And I'm sorry about that. We put too much trust in AI, and that's where it'll fool you. So sorry about that. As I was looking past on the previous winners, Josh Berry won in 2025. At the spring race, Kyle Larson, William Byron won in 2023, Alex Bowman in 2022, and 2021 was Kyle Larson. So, yeah, there's
still 4 out of 5. Chevy and Hendrick.
Yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, that's of course this seems to be a great racetrack for Chevrolet. The fall winner was actually Joey. Nope. I did not say for 2025 who won the fall race. You guys remember who that was? In 2024 it was Joey Logano. That's what it says. Who knows? You can't even trust AI, so I don't know. I just throw that out the window. But Las Vegas, definitely mile and a half speedway. Hey, we've seen some great racing at mile and a half. So who's excited about getting back there? I know I am.
Let's go.
Mr. CA Sports, you got anything about the upcoming Las Vegas race? I do have a couple of notes here that I guess I could read off. Of course, no added art cars to the field. Only a 36-car field. Outside of that, yeah, let's go. We need a mile and a half speedway in our life.
I think the biggest thing I'll be looking for this weekend, being a Kyle Busch fan, is just seeing Kyle Busch. This is a track that he has done well in the past. It's a home track for him. So I would definitely like to see him, even if he doesn't win, at least a top 5, top 10 kind of performance, something, show some kind of life. Fall race was Denny Hamlin, to answer your question on that. But I'd like to see Kyle Busch do something. Like I said, top 5, top 10, at least be relevant in a race. Being a Kyle Busch fan, it's very aggravating to. I'm not asking him to win all the time. I'm not asking him to have to be a top 5, top 10 every time. Winning some races and being top 5, top 10 most of the time would be great, but at least be competitive. And I don't know if it's RCR. I don't know if priorities have changed as you got a kid old enough that's racing. 2 kids, wife has a whole career going on. I don't know if it's a mixture of things. It don't seem like that's the same rowdy and the same edge. So I don't know if we're on the back end of this and just the priorities have changed, or he's just acting the part of the quality of product he is driving, and that's why you're just kind of because I'm just getting kind of I don't know, can't put my finger on it, because Austin Dillon is not having as such bad finishes and results as Kyle Busch. So is it Kyle Busch? Is it RCR? But I would like to see Las Vegas, a track that he has done good in the past, be a track that kind of maybe gives us some kind of life there at the 18.
Baz?
I don't really have anything to add on here.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think last year, we got surprised with Josh Berry picking up the win, and that's a really big thing for Josh Berry. Maybe we can see that go back to back. If not, you kind of expect the Hendrick car to win here. That they've been very dominant during the spring race, and I think that we'll continue to see that continue. So no need to sweat it out yet. Now, if we walk away from Las Vegas and Chevrolet doesn't have a good performance, I think that could be a very big topic next week on the show. But let's sit back and wait and see what happens here, because this is definitely typically a racetrack that favors the Chevrolets. Taz Taylor, without further ado, is Taz's weekly NASCAR power ranking report. Looking forward to that. I know we've had some movers, some comers and goers, some people feeling like more like where we would be mid-season. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you have with us for your segment.
Alrighty, comers and goers, here we go. Moving around once again. Everybody moved except for one team, and the one team shows right there in the Basement 5 that stayed in the same week. It's not RFK this time, but we'll get to them when we get there. Start with the Basement 5. We have Haas Factory moving down 1 to number 15. Rick Ware moves up 1 to 14. Wood Brothers falls down 1 to 13. Hayek falls down 2 spots from the climbing 5. Now they're joining the Basement 5 at number 12 this week. And of course, as you see, Legacy Motor Club, they stay at number 11 for another week. Thoughts, concerns, Mr. CJ? You're muted.
Well, good. I agree with all that. I don't think anything. I don't feel anything's wrong. Anything needs to be changed. You are looking at the bottom 5 teams right now. Hopefully, Josh Berry gets Wood Brothers in Victory Lane this weekend, goes back to back in Vegas, and that changes things for Wood Brothers. But as of right now, we are looking at the Basement 5 right now.
Yeah, so Haas, back to the bottom. The rebrand buzz has faded. Now it's about hard results, which just aren't there yet. I have faith in Cole Custer. I think he's a really good race car driver. Haas is, they're fighting against the wind. It's tough to pee uphill. It's going to roll back down on you. So, kind of looking to see where that team is able to go from here. They need a good sponsorship, a good partnership. I don't think that they have that going on right now. I know that they're partnered with somebody, but it just doesn't feel like it's a really strong partnership. I think it is, isn't it? With who is their partnership with? I'll ask that as I move up to Rick Ware. Up 1, but still in the danger zone. The goal here is just consistently not being at the bottom. Phoenix was a nudge in the right direction. Wood Brothers, look, we're coming to Las Vegas. Josh Berry won here last year. I'm very, very concerned about the performance of the Wood Brothers team right now. I expect them, even being a one-car operation, to be Penske material up near the front. I have a lot of faith in Josh Berry. I know that he can wheel a race car. So I do look at this as another tiny step back. The name still hits harder than the result, and the gap is getting harder to ignore. I don't know if that's a Josh Berry problem, if it's a Wood Brothers problem, or if there's a problem with the partnership at Penske. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm definitely expecting more out of that little race team. Hyatt down 2. The early sugar rush is finally gone. At this point, they look more like a streaky mid-tier operation than a legit top 10 lock. Legacy completely struck in neutral. Like, they just don't feel like they're going anywhere. And I didn't expect this after John Hunter and his, he had a good run last year at the end of the season. Eric Jones, I've been waiting for Eric Jones to break out for years, and it's just not happened.
Jonesy with the top 10 this week.
He did get a top 10 this week, and that's something to feed off of. So hopefully that'll help move the lever, and they can move more into the right direction. But right now, just very, very disappointed with Legacy and Wood Brothers for being where they are.
All right, let's go into the climbing 5. For week 4, we have RCR getting out of the basement into the number 10 spot, up 3 spots. Front Row Motorsports down 1 to number 8, or down 1 to number 9. Trackhouse down 1 to number 8 this week. Colleague Racing falls down 3 spots from the top 5, and they're now in the climbing 5 this week at number 7. And then Joe Gibbs Racing with big improvements. They're up 3 spots up to number 6, knocking on the door for the top 5 ranking spot. Start with you, Chris, and then we'll get to CJ.
Yeah, RCR finally putting the nose in the right direction. Phoenix felt like the first real sign that they're falling back toward where the brand says they should be. I think they have a long way to go. They've got some internal things going on at RCR that they need fixed, and they need fixed quickly because it's just not working. They got too much money rolling into that organization to be where they are right now. Another disappointment to see them so far down in the rankings. Front Row, I think Front Row is moving in the right direction. I have been impressed with Zane Smith every weekend. Todd Gillian is consistent. There are 2-car operations, so it's hard to make waves fast. But I see them headed in the right direction. Now, whether or not you kind of top out at 8 or 7 or something like that, I feel like that's where the ultimate goal for Front Row Motorsports is, to get up a couple of more spots, not down one. So they were right where they kind of needed to be last week. Unfortunately, they fell off. But the next team, there is no excuse here. Trackhouse has a lot of money. They have a lot of investments into their drivers. They've got quite a bit of sponsorship money coming in. Connor Zilic looks terrible. What a heartbreak for that kid to be where they were last year in the O'Reilly Racing Series, O'Reilly Race Parts Series, versus where he is now in the Cup Series. I know this is Cup, this is the best of the best, but I expected a little bit more out of Zilly already this season and just have not seen those results at the end of the race. But Shane Van Gisbergen seems to be the guy that's keeping that organization afloat right now. Shout out top 5 right now in the points. Trackhouse, definitely room to grow. This is the team that should be in your top 5, not 8th or below. So definitely they've got to get their ass in gear. Colleague down 3. Colleagues, they're evening out where they should be. I've been impressed with Ty Dillon. I'm not going to lie. Ty's put together some strong finishes. We know what the Dinger can do. We know where the Dinger's strong. AJ is a great person to lead your organization if you're not looking for a week in, week out powerhouse structured win, right? They're not going to be a powerhouse team. They're not going to be a top 5 team. But AJ can consistently give you finishes. He knows how to take care of race cars. He knows the ultimate goal. Don't overuse the race car at places where you're not going to be ultra competitive. Now, when you go to road courses and you go to Daytona and stuff like that, I expect to see Colleague in a little bit different fashion. But they're right where they should be, probably up a couple spots where you'll see them by the end of the year. Gibbs, definitely a top 4 team, top 3. We talk about the big 3 all the time, seeing them there. But look, for how long, right? Chase Briscoe, I think he's sitting 34th in points right now. You're not going to have Chase Briscoe sitting in 34th in points 4 more races into the season. This team is going to continue to climb. Ty Gibbs is the weak link, but Ty Gibbs is showing that he can stay competitive in some of these races. I expect Gibbs to continue to move up Taz Taylor.
CJ.
I don't know. RCR, I could see in the basement of 5, but other than the fact that you got 5 teams worse than them. So I think I'm a little bit harder on RCR. 10th is the right place for them, and that's only because there's 5 teams worse than them, not because they're the 10th best. They're just not the 5th worst. Trackhouse, I agree with you 100%, Chris. SVG is kind of carrying that team right now. Kind of disappointed in Ross Chastain. He's just really not putting up the performances that we was kind of expecting out of him this year. I agree, a lot of money in this team. There's no reason that they are not turning over the performances. Joe Gibbs Racing, I believe, is a top 5 team. So without remembering who's left in the top 5, I know there's a couple teams definitely better than them, but I'd be willing to bet, I would argue, Gibbs to be over somebody that is in the top 5. So once we flip over, I'll make that argument on my term. But hopefully Joe Gibbs continues to find itself moving forward and hoping that this whole court stuff doesn't get them sidetracked.
All righty, that will lead us to our top 5. And we start with Hendrick Motorsports going up 1 this week to number 5. RFK Racing falls down 1 after sitting at number 3 for 3 weeks straight. They fall down to number 4. Spire Motorsports drops their number 1 ranking after a poor outing at Phoenix. They're at number 3. Team Penske shoots up 3 spots to number 2. And 2311 on top of the leaderboard, up 1 spot from number 2 last week. Mr. CJ, we'll start with you before Chris closes that out.
All right, to make mine quick. RFK, if I was going to say who should be in the top 5 and moved out, Joe Gibbs in top 5, RFK probably 6 in my book. 2311, I feel, is on top. I feel they should have been the top 1 the entire time. Even with not winning this weekend, still having a good performance, especially out of Tyler Reddick. I like 1, 2, 3. I don't know. I can see Hendrick. So, but RFK is the one I would have bumped out of the. So go ahead, Chris. I want to make sure I give you plenty of time.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, RFK, I feel like they're a top 6 organization. So just being in that 4th spot just shows the commitment that these drivers have had. They're a 3-team operation now. That means 3 teams have to have good finishes to be here. They have been consistent. Do I believe that this is where they're going to sit all year long? Absolutely not. 2311 has proven that they deserve somewhere in that 5 spot. Of course, Trackhouse is underperforming right now. We just said that they belong in the top 5 somewhere. So that doesn't give much room. Of course, there's another faker on here, and we'll get to them in just a minute. But Hendrick's on his way to number 1. Like, no doubt in my mind, before the year is out, we're going to see Hendrick sometime or another at the number 1 spot. What could kind of hinder them right now is the 4th team. And Alex Bowman, no telling where that team's going to go. I believe Allgaier's going to step in this week and race. Whether or not Bowman's able to perform when he does get back in the car is a wait-and-see situation. So they do have one, kind of like Gibbs, they have that one car that's going to kind of continue to fluctuate whether or not they're a 1, 2, or a 3. But Hendrick's in the top 5. We know that they're going to continue to climb. As I said about RFK, I don't expect them to stay here for very long. I do expect them to kind of fall down to around the 6th spot. But somewhere between that 5 and 6 spot is where RFK wants to be. And they'll be a strong organization if they hold that. Of course, we've seen RFK all the way down outside the top 10, I think, at one point in time in Taz's earlier a couple of years ago when RFK was finally starting to make that climb. So they've come a long way. I'm really proud of where they are. Spire, like, I don't even know how the hell they're still in the top 3, right? Like, I think Carson did wind up with a pretty good finish. Michael McDowell, up to this point, kind of pieced together a pretty good, decent points run. But Spire, by no means. You're going to see them fall somewhere in that 7th, 8th, even 9th spot, unless we just see some major improvement out of Carson. Maybe get a couple of wins and stuff, but we'll just have to keep our eye on that. Penske at number 2, they're battling for that top spot right now. There's a 3rd car called Austin Cindric, who, I think he's sitting like 32nd or 33rd in points, just really, dragging that team down. But for Blaney and Logano, both of them have shown pretty big power points throughout the year so far. I don't think that team has anything to worry about. And 2311, is the Cinderella story over with? I think so. I think we've run the money out. Now, who knows? We may show up at Vegas and Tyler Reddick be back, or he might follow Jordan's footsteps and take 2 races off and come back and win 3 more again. We'll have to wait and see. But enjoy your time. Enjoy your time. 2311 at the top. You've been able to hold there. Up 1 this week. You're at the spot that you deserve to be. Tyler Reddick put forth a top 10 finish this year at this last race, and so kudos to that team. And Bubba Wallace still sitting there, I think, at 2nd or 3rd in points. I'm not really sure. I know he was 2nd last week. I don't think he's there this week. But kudos to 2311. I mean, job well done.
All right. Well, that closes up our power rankings. We have basically 1 minute to close up the show here tonight.
Yeah, I do want to bring a minute shout out to the sponsors, of course. Mr. CJ Sports, you've got your lawnmower, McMillan, what is a lawn service that's come on board, and we're going to give a sponsor plug to them. The 110 Sports Collectibles. Tell us a little bit about that, Mr. CJ Sports, and the other sponsorship there with Mario.
I want to make sure that we thank the 110 Sports and Collectible Company for all your officially licensed sports merchandise. You guys can check them out in Hocking Hills, Lancaster, West Milton, or Monroe, Ohio, or go to www.the110sportsandcollectiblescompany.com. Also, those in the Dayton, Ohio area, if you're looking for a lawn care company, call us at 937-999-9793. That is McMillan's Lawn Care and Landscaping Company. We got about 10 more spots we are looking to fill for this year. So call us today and we'll get you taken care of. And also got a shout out to Carolina Sports Plus. Mario is a good friend of ours. He has helped co-host shows. He puts content on our fan page as well, our Facebook page over the 110 Sports. Is also who got us into the whole sports merchandise, has given stuff away for the 110. So glad to have him part of the 110 Nation as well.
And big shout out and thanks to Sharon Burton, of course, Fan for Racing. There's been a lot of good talent come out of her organization over the last several years. And I know that eyes are watching us, and we continue to grow and are able to help her grow her network as well. Just a big thank you to her for allowing us to have this spot. And I just don't want I don't want to go 1 second without her feeling our appreciation for allowing us to be on her radio time and on her network. Taz Taylor, close it out for us, buddy.
All right, everybody. This has been Race Chat Live with Mr. CJ Sports of the 110 Nation. Chris Creighton, the Yellow Caution Flag Racing Radio on the Tasmanian Double Flaggers. Taz Taylor saying good night. We'll see you same bad time, same bad place next Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. This has been Race Chat Live. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody. See you next week.